I despise the publisher model.
What do you think that game's going to do?
The insane number, 20 to 30,000 copies wins the first 72 hours.
Let's just assume for the sake of this conversation, we're talking to the people that do want to min-max.
I want to build a sustainable business that allows me to make games. Period.
Welcome to the Dev Dream Podcast, hosting conversations to keep both you and me inspired to continue following our dream of making video games. Today, I sat down with Cory Darby, who is a professional game developer, business analyst, marketing expert, and more, but Jonas Tyroller summed him up well as a professional min-maxer. We got to talk about a lot of things like his thoughts on the game dev industry, what he's been doing to help other video game developers succeed, and his recent project working with Aarimous, a fellow game dev YouTuber, on his upcoming game, a game about feeding a black hole. It's a great conversation. If you enjoy it, please hit that subscribe button. And if you're already subscribed, you can hit the like button. Okay, we are rolling. So I think a nice place to start, just for a little context for people that aren't familiar with you, is normally I'm on here interviewing solo game developers who are building a game completely by themselves. And I feel like you don't quite fit into that bucket. So just how would you describe the work that you're doing in game dev right now?
The question I've thought about a lot over the last maybe month, because a lot of people have been asking this, and I haven't had a great, strong answer for it. The answer I can give is, one, it's evolving. And two, it's this quasi blend of development, marketing, business. On Jonas's podcast, he said I was professional min-maxer. I think that just says I do a lot with the numbers. I've had people say like, oh, what you do is just marketing. Yeah, but what marketer do you know that builds tools around the marketing itself? Like, and then there's projects where I'm literally half and half in terms of the development of the project. Like, I done a game called Click and Conquer with someone in Sockhouse Studios is their handle, or Sockhouse. And we're doing another game and we are split on development. So whatever that is what I am. So, I've had people say, you sound like a publisher. And then they hear this and they're like, wait, that's nothing like a publisher does? I'm like, exactly. So I don't know.
Yep. Truly a one of one, I think. You're Cory, you're doing what you're doing. And just to help people build out your lore a little bit, you talked about Click and Conquer. Can you kind of talk about the 300-hour experiment, so to speak, and kind of the initial idea wherein you guys started with Click and Conquer?
Yeah, sure. So this would have been about January of this year, 2025, and I had done a game jam with someone, and we decided to do a game. That game ended up becoming this game called Click and Conquer. It's a short incremental game. It was time box. It was supposed to be about 300 hours. That was the theory I had. Looking at our game jam, how much more time we had to spend on polish, where it was. I was like, I think we could do a commercially viable game in 300 hours. Spoiler, it took about 400 hours actually. And that game went on to sell, it's probably now at this point 40,000 copies, and it's well over $100,000. So on 400 hours of time too. And I think that's kind of what led to many other things, but that's the current big thing. So.
Okay. And now I'm thinking there's kind of two branching pathways we could take this conversation. So the first would be talking about a game about feeding a black hole, which you're working with Aarimous on, which I'm a big Aarimous fan, so I've been following him pretty closely. And so I'm pretty interested in that. Or I've also done my best to kind of distill some of the framework that you've talked about, like on Jonas's podcast, into sort of the data-driven things that you've come up with. Do you have a preference on where we go next?
We can cover both if you spend the time. I'm willing to give you as much as I can.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, let's jump into some of the specifics. So, it seems like you do sort of like a post-mortem with game developers, that from what I've gathered from these other podcasts. And through those, you've been able to get some data, and you've come up with some interesting points that are maybe not exactly countercultural, might not be the right word, but has like a little bit of a different lens of things that we're thinking about and some of the standard practices maybe in the indie game dev industry. Would you say that's correct?
I think that is correct to the lens of the indie dev community and what they currently think. And where if you want to call it the meta, where the current meta is, yes, there's a lot of points that run counter to what the meta is.
Yeah, would it be fair to say, because when I listen to specifically your second podcast with Aarimous, does it kind of all just distill down to like sales velocity in the first 3 days? Is that kind of what you're looking at? And then I know there's a lot of inputs into that, but is that kind of the tipping point, or is there more than that?
No, I mean, a lot of it does distill into this 3 to 7 day window. All the games I have looked at, which at this point are over 50 games, all different genres, different creators, different styles, different times, EA, full release, all over the place. I can pretty much look at a game and outside of like insane viral moment, like a pick your famous actor or whoever, Taylor Swift picks up your game, it's like, okay, none of the data matters at that point. Outside of those extreme moments, first 3 to 7 days is a game I can look at and spot if it's going to quote unquote hit a successful game or not. Now I think it's shapeable. Like I think it's actually engineering the luck. Game about feeding a black hole as an example to tie it back to your original ask about that is, Aarimous came out and said he thought it was a lot of luck. Now, behind that and the sales velocity, the game's not for sale yet, so we don't know, but speculating and just talking about the wish list, everyone's like, okay, so you emailed a bunch of creators. No, I didn't just email a bunch of creators. It started with 2 million channels of building a tool to go scrape and crawl and find all game review channels that were related to this type of game, set criteria of what I thought would work well. So let's say like 5,000 views, a minimum of video. Forget subscriber count. I don't care if they have 100 million subscribers or 1 subscriber. What could they get a video in this type of game space? Then that distilled down to about 5,000 that would meet that criteria, how they posted a video in the last 6 months, yada, yada. Then it was a manual process of going through all 5,000 one by one of, does this fit? Does this not fit? Is this what there were some false positives in the tool, like it wasn't flawless. That got me down to about 600. And then from there, that was 600, go get the emails. So yeah, I did email a bunch of people, but I did the time estimate. I think even trying to do this without the tool is like 300 hours. Even the process of yes or no in the buckets was a tool. It's like foot pedal or left and right arrow. Approve, left, right, deny. Because you think of how many 5,000 you have to go through, right? So tool would open up 10 Chrome tabs immediately, and then it was just left, close that tab, next one, right, close that tab. Because you have to be able to go through this incredibly, like, think about it, just 10 seconds on 5,000 of these, 50,000 seconds. It's almost 24, it's like 15 hours. And I think it took me something like 20 to 30 hours, including the emails, to get the emails, to actually get all this. So yeah, it's 3 to 7 days, but it's like engineering it. How do we put all the ducks in the row to try and get the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time? So,
okay. Yeah, a couple interesting trails I want to follow there. What are you looking at when you say the first 3 to 7 days you know if it's a success or not? Are you just talking about like sales per visits, or what are the things you're looking at?
I do look at the sales per visits. Then there's the common advice too. It's like, okay, did you hit trending? Okay, likely. Did he hit popper up and coming? You'll notice that even before the 72 hours. But I actually really focus in on like the discovery queue. So it's like how much visits are coming from the discovery queue and how much is the algo clawing that back after day 3. Like a lot of the games I look, we have this giant spike up right around day 3, this ramping up. And then if the game does not maintain or increase sales velocity at that point, I can just see the impressions or visits from the discovery queue just drop each day. It's about 10 to 25%. And that makes sense from like a Valve standpoint. It's like you've given all this exposure. If it's not continuing to convert, why would you waste that valuable visits on something that's not continuing to convert at like flatline or an increase? Now, obviously you can bump this up. Like a content creator could cover your game on game 5. That might indicate good signal and get the algo to refresh if we say that. But if you don't, it seems like by day 3, the algo just starts aggressively calling back on the visits you get to the page. And that's the bulk of what your sales are going to be. For like 90% of people probably listing, if you don't have this massive wish list backlog or being able to drive from your other games, it's going to be the discovery queue. And the discovery queue is going to trump even content creators. Like I look back at Click and Conquer, and while the content creators were helpful, I'd say it's about 1/3 of all sales. And then the other 2/3 is Steam related, whether it's new and trending or friend recommendation or other store page widgets under $5, the discounts, yada, yada, wish list, discovery queue. Yeah. So it's Valve or Steam, whichever one you want to call it, it is the go-to engine for your game.
Yeah, so you mentioned engineering your own luck. Just as a general life principle, I'm fully on board with that. There's like a really good quote of like, luck is just the intersection of opportunity and preparation. And so it's, that idea that like, yeah, there are some universal forces. Maybe Taylor Swift plays your game, but also there's this input piece that you have to do in order to even have the opportunity to be lucky. That being said, when you're working with game developers, what kinds of things, either in production or marketing or like utilizing this tool, are you having them think through as inputs to either get on that discovery queue or maintain that sales velocity in those first 7 days?
I think, there's different approaches. So before discovery queue, it's like, even before I focus on like mechanical things of the game, it talked about this in the past on other podcasts, but it's like the store is vastly more important than people realize. Like you'll spend all this time making a great game, and then you'll spend like 1,000th the amount of time on your store page. You spent 1,000 hours on your game, you spent 10 hours on your store page. And the irony to the statement, and it's so obvious to people probably hearing, is like, well, duh, you're not saying anything crazy. But I see it time over time over time. So I have to continue to repeat it because, it's just not clicking and it's not,
right.
Not everyone's falling through.
Yep.
It's the top of the funnel. Like that is what people are going to see before they buy your game. I've had people say, oh, my game didn't do well. It's just not a fun game. And I pull up and I'm like, low refunds, good wishlist conversion. Okay, game's not fun. It's like, how many visits did you get? It's like minimal. How many impressions clicked off the capsule onto your store page and then convert it? Like minimal. Probably not great capsule, or they don't understand the description, or the tags are misplaced, or the trailer doesn't resonate with them. They don't understand the game. Like that's the top, right? Everything after that is just going to get smaller and smaller. So on discovery queue related, it's like, I want people to buy as quickly as possible. So I want players I don't want to appeal to general audience. I just want to make it very obvious who this game is for. Like making it washy where it's like, well, it's kind of this farming game, but it's got an RPG mechanic to it. It's like, okay, is it a farming game with automation, or is it an RPG game that happens to have farming? Like, which is it? I would rather the person leave and move on. And then the people who do see it and are like, oh, this is farming automation, period. I like that. Buy immediately. Great. And this is before we even get to engineering within the game. This is not even them playing your game. This is just before. Because I don't think there's, if I take a step back for the listener, it's like, where are you and what are you trying to achieve? There's different tiers I see. It's like, if you're just trying to make, I'll say in US dollars, about $50,000, a lot of the stuff I say doesn't even matter. Like, really, like, if you're really trying min-max, it's not even gonna matter. $50,000 games or less, I think it just comes down to good capsule, good trailer, good store page. Game can be relatively average. Doesn't even need to be novel, doesn't even need to have a crazy mechanic, doesn't even need to be quote unquote the funnest game, really. The rest is just getting the eyeballs. So that I think you can just do on content creators and just discovery queue and just getting 10 reviews and having the front of the funnel great. Beyond that, I think other things start to coming into play. Now we start talking about the game itself, like the median playtime. Can we engineer that to be higher? Can we have our concurrent players in the game higher by having total playtime higher? Can we have refunds low by having like the game actually be incredibly well polished for 2 hours? So, example, Click and Conquer, we could have extended that game well beyond 2 hours. It's idle clicker game. You just make it longer. You just pull out how long it takes for the reward. We did not want players to feel like it's a grindy game and go, I'm unhappy with the game, bad review, enter. Like, even though people complained it was a short game, tons of people complained it was a short game, people still left good reviews because the value was proportional to the time. It was like $3 USD for like, let's say 2.5 hour game. And people thought that was worth it. There was definitely people who said they want a longer game, but we would rather people crave for the longer than say, oh my goodness, I spent 5 hours in the most grindy game ever. Do not buy. Waste of my life. So
That's such a good point. Such a good way of saying it. That first, building towards experience first. Now, taking it a step back, and let's just assume for the sake of this conversation, we're talking to the people that do want to min-max. So I think a lot of the value you're bringing is for the people that are looking to either maybe make this a full-time career, they're wanting to, make enough on their game to create the next game in their own time and pay themselves, things like that. So let's assume that for the rest of the conversation and for people listening.
Yeah.
Now, when you're in the early stages, or if you're talking to an early stage developer, I think like Chris Zukowski would say, like, even picking your genre is a part of your marketing decision. Do you go that far back with your thinking, or where are you at with that and kind of just even the conceptual piece of starting a game?
I do, but, and I've said this other places, it really depends on the creator. It depends on what they're willing to sacrifice for this. Like, I want to build a sustainable business that allows me to make games, period. And what I mean by that, and why I say it that way, is there are many people who they want to build the games that they want to make to be able to then be able to do game dev. And it's a little subtlety. I'm willing to build things that I don't really want to build because I know it will be sustainable, profitable for me to build what I want to build. And some people won't. Like their compass, their North Star does not allow that. So for me, yeah, of course, I look back. If you told me the greatest chance of success is in I don't know, simulator game in XYZ kind of style, and I'm like, I hate those games. I despise desktop idler games. But if I saw that the market would reward those, I'd be making them. Now, is that going to hurt motivation? Probably. But I know myself well enough to know that I can just like double down and push through when I need to. Some people, no. So I'm not asking or saying that people should sacrifice, whatever their North Star is. I'm just saying you need to ask yourself, are you here to build the dream of what you want to build? Or are you here to put down the foundation to be, I don't want to say free, but like the ability to have that moving forward at some point? And I'm in the camp of I'm willing to lay down the foundation on the things that I don't really want to do and don't enjoy for the long-term benefit. So I think people should look. But again, if that's going to destroy them and they're not going to complete the game, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I love the way you talk about it, because I think there's this weird juxtaposition in the game dev, at least maybe creator space, where there is like this big pull towards being like, a full-time YouTuber or making a hit game and making a bunch of money. But then we don't do what you're saying to do, which is to be honest and reasonable and strategic about it. We say, I want to do that, and I also want to make my art. And, maybe you get lucky and your art is what the market looks like. But I really like your framing of like, if you want this dream, probably the most realistic and highest percentage chance of that succeeding is to be more strategic and pick a game and a genre that's going to succeed. So I really am appreciating this as someone that's thinking about game dev. Now, when you're in those early days, let's say someone's done their research, they're in a genre that they feel confident is supported by the Steam audience. You started to mention some more specific things that you would start to try to engineer, like playtime and low refunds. Once you get to that stage, what are some of those things that, or maybe in the games you're looking at, or maybe in a game about feeding a black hole as an example, what are the things you're working on to try to keep refunds low, to get the playtime where you want it? What are you looking at?
Everything. Even down to the hour, literally the hour, and actually not even the minute in which we launch. And you could say, "Oh, Cory, what's the difference?" Well, popular up and coming for the day has nothing to do. Once you're on the list, it has nothing to do with your wish list count. You're on the list, VI wish list, yes. Once you're on the list, that no longer matters. Now it's by the time in which you are launching on that day. So, why would I put you want literal min-max? Game sets release date to 11 a.m. Why would I ever set 11 a.m.? I'm going to set 10:59. Why? Because I show up one more ranking higher than anyone else.
Yeah. Genius.
Like literally that, the smallest thing. There's a reason why if you go through really quality tier publishers in the space, and what I mean by that, I don't mean reputational in terms of the games they publish. I mean like they're operating a well-oiled business machine. You can go and spot, like, why do some publishers publish early in the morning? Why are they publishing on certain days? Why are they co-publishing their games on the same day? It's like, well, if you publish both your games on the same day, you can bundle across them. So one game does well, it's going to pull up the other game. If they both do well, they'll pull both games up. Why do they publish early in the morning? Because they're going to show up as the first slot for the 24 hours versus everyone else. Like, so Tuesday, if they're releasing on a Wednesday, once the Tuesday games drop off, they're going to show up as first thing on that page. And then you log in on Steam and you say, okay, 1920 by 1080, how many numbers do you see? It's not all 10. It's like 6 or 7, I think, is what shows up. So there is a difference of being the last on the list versus the top. Like all these are like super tiny things, but they start really adding up when you talk about these eyeballs. Now, you're publishing your first game. Don't worry about this. Like first, let's even try and get on popular up and coming. Refund rates, it's like, okay, so we want definitely a median time above the 2 hours, because then you're going to remove the players who got the full experience of the game but then decide to refund. It's actually pretty small, to be quite honest. Like in Click and Conquer, there are players who finish under 2 hours and did not refund the game. We were a little worried about that when we originally made the game, that a lot of people were going to refund. Actually, quite the opposite. People pretty much enjoyed the game. It was like, it's worth it. But also the price is enough that they didn't feel the need to refund. We start charging $3-4 US. It's like, do I really want to go through the hassle of opening up the UI and clicking a refund and waiting for Steam to reissue? There are some people, of course. There's some people who are going to abuse it and literally set a clock at 1 hour and 55 minutes, beep, beep, okay, refund the game, I got my enjoyment. Like, but the mass majority of people aren't like that. Concurrent players is a big thing. So once you have released your game, Popular recently released as a tab, and that's ordered by top 10 games. And that's not clear cut exactly what it is. Like, it looks to be a weighted system, but let's say like 80 to 90% of that score is based off of the concurrent players. So how do you get more concurrent players? Well, you just have longer playtime for your existing players, so they don't drop off as quickly. Like, that was one of the problems with Click and Conquer, is 2-hour game. We have a lot of players coming in, but we also have a lot of players going out at the same time. 2 hours is like a full refresh. If that game had been more like 4 hours to be, it very likely would have hit Popular recently released. And the sales on that is like 2 to 5 times the amount versus what the game did. It's non-linear. Like, some of these things are just like crazy multipliers. So
Yeah, that's a super interesting thought. After that experience, considering maybe a longer game gets you more concurrent players, are you still in the mindset that maybe like a 2.5-hour game is, I mean, I guess the trade-off is that the 2.5-hour game in theory takes less development time. And so you have less invested, unless you're going to, do something and stretch it out artificially. But do you think that having that investment time less is better and is a worthwhile trade-off to a potential longer game?
So I don't know if I've just spent too much time in the enterprise business world, but what comes pretty natural to me is devs get too caught up in thinking how to increase playtime. I don't mean artificially. I mean, you built a game. How much time you spent? Pick a number. Game of a black hole. Let's say we spent 400 hours building this game, and it produces, let's say, 2 hours of content. Okay. How can we take that initial sunk cost, the fixed cost to it, and go, how do we add more out of the game without artificially doing it, but with better return than 400 hours for 2 hours? The example I can give you is in Game of a Black Hole, we have what we call normal mode. This is where we hold the hand on the player. We take the player on the journey. It's a linear progression on the incremental, so they don't really get a ton of choice. You're going to buy anything anyways in the game, on normal mode. And then that's 2 hours. Okay, cool. I take all the same skills. I modify the skill tree. I change the experience. So this one's more like a challenge mode. It's a huge, massive grid that's going to take way longer. You know how long that takes me to do the grid? Max, 20 hours with balancing QA and adjusting. So 20 hours for how much more playtime? Probably an hour to 2 hours. That is a great return of time. We just talked about 400 for the base game to get 2 hours out. Now we're talking about 20 hours to get another hour out of the game. So this is where I'm like, yeah, you want low development time, but like, you also don't want to pass away or pass on the things that are like these great positive ROIs to extend the player time. You've already put in the fixed amount. Like, and that number I kind of spitballed there, but I wouldn't be surprised if the game about feeding a black hole ends up being this like 400, 500 hour game between me and Aarimous combined. And the example I just gave there is what I think will be valid. It's going to be 20 to 30 hours for me to add another game mode, which is going to add another hour to 2 hours of content. And we'll do it again. So we have normal mode, challenge mode, we have idler mode. Idle mode is like basically you just sit back and you just watch the screen in chaos. Like, I don't know why more devs don't do this stuff. It's like you spend all this time building your creation, and then you're like, they'll try and come up with a novel new mechanic. They're like, oh, if I just add this crazy new thing for another 100 hours, like, no. What do you have that you can just basically change? And maybe I'm just biased in the incremental space, but even the games I start playing, like Clover Pit, for anyone who's listening, this is like a gambler roguelite game. You pull a slot machine, you get points and whatnot. Did a mechanic that's very similar. You have the core game. You could play the core game 10, 15 hours easily. Then they add these memory packs, and all the memory packs do is modify the base stats in the game. So this one, you have a 0% chance of this, 100% chance of this. This is more likely. This is less likely. And that like quadruples, if not 5x, maybe 10x is the playtime on the game. Because there's a ton of these memory packs. Balatro does this as well. Base game. Then you have stakes. Well, the different decks and the different ranking of whatever it is, stakes and the ordering. And all those are modifiers on the existing game. It's not like they introduced a new concept, really. It's just like, oh, this one you don't get big blinds. Or this one is more difficult because, I don't know, the chips in it are higher rate of increasing. Same base game. And in the code as a dev, you're just like, cool. So when we're doing the calculations, we just go get the stat to do the manipulation. And we're either adding or subtracting or multiplying or dividing. And this is great. This is what every dev should be doing.
Right. Yeah. So maybe to summarize, it would be fair to just say that, build your base game and then just look for the lowest hanging fruit of easily adaptable content that you can add that already basically functions like the regular game.
Yeah, I think so. Now, I think yes, I agree. I think there is value in trying to come up with that upfront. Not engineer your game and then come back to it.
Okay.
Versus just saying like, hey, I'm adding this thing in the game. Maybe I want to manipulate it in the future. Let's just add in the variable now. And if I don't set it, I don't set it. It's a 1.0. If I do set it in the future, great. It's already there. Like, that's what we did for Game About a Black Hole is like anytime we're seeing any spot where it's like, ooh, that's a number. That's a chance. That's a timer. Like just add the stat that we can change later. Like don't hard code it. Just put it as like chance stat, whatever. Have the manager for that. We'll manipulate the manager if we need it. If not, it stays 1.0. We move on. So because going back, it's gonna be very tedious. Because like, and you're not gonna really have the motivation. It's like translation. If anyone's done translation in a game, and you did it after the fact instead of doing it at the start, you hate it. Because like, I have to go back and change all the strings over. They're in like 50,000 spots.
Yeah.
But if you built it from the get-go, it doesn't feel as daunting. So.
Now, when you're thinking about, when you're in that development phase, or you maybe have data on this and maybe it's intuition, but are you usually looking for a base game that's over 2 hours because that's what most players are going to do? And then adding the additional for the people that want to go deep? Or are you considering those, extra modes, let's say, in beating a game about a black hole? Are you also considering those in trying to get to 2 hours?
Right now, with where I am and the risk tolerance I'm willing to put in a game, its base is 2 hours, and then additive on the modes is further. Because also it allows you to have levers. It's like, we run out of time. Okay, we decrease the price in order to ship a 2-hour smaller game. And so be it. And if it does all right, we'll add the DLC for the things that would have been the additional modes. If you try and make it so that like a combination of these different things come up to 2 hours, now you're locked. It's like, I kind of need to deliver the 2 hours of time. Pulling it probably below that is really going to be hard for the Steam player base. To have like an hour playtime game is just like unheard of. You're going to get a ton of like negative refunds that probably say it should have been free to play. So yeah.
Okay. That is all super helpful to think through. And just, once again, min-maxing and having clarity on what your game is before, I think is really important. Now let's go back to the Steam page a little bit in the top of the funnel. Would you say that, you mentioned a couple things, but where would you rank the capsule in importance? And is that something that you think people should hire out if they're looking to make money? Is it something you can risk doing yourself, or where are you at on capsules?
Click and Conquer, we paid an artist to do the capsule. It's kind of hard because the game of feeding the black hole, Aarimous did himself, and that goes against my intuition. But then I realized like the art style that we're doing is so simplistic. It's like it's very challenging to do. This is vector art style, but it appears to be very simple and approachable. And I thought, okay, how are we even going to find an artist to do that? I don't even know who to go find for that. Versus a typical Steam capsule is more like not reality to what the game is. It's kind of like what you want to convey in terms of experience and what you think people would click on. Versus, Game of a Feeding Black Hole. What you see is literally the game, in the capsule. But I think we get away with it because the title is also conveyed what the game is literally about. But the title is A Game About Feeding a Black Hole. That is what you're doing. Versus the other ones are like, I don't know, mythical wolf, yada yada, and you're like,
right,
what is that?
Right.
The capsule is kind of like the hook to pull you in, and usually it's the art style and like conveying more about like, oh, a sword and a wolf and like people, and you're like, oh, okay, they're going to slay this wolf that's chasing after people. Okay, I kind of have an understanding of the game. Short, I think people should pay. I think you can find up and coming good quality artists for like 500 USD. Even maybe below that if you're flexible in the time demands and you're willing to find ways to save the artist time. So it's like if they come back or like what you're asking is way too much. You're like, well, is there a way we could do something similar but might be easier? They're like, yeah, the character, you only get half the character off half the side of the screen with the sword coming out of the other side, because that will save them time on drawing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Like you're gonna have to compromise. Either you're compromising on the budget or you're compromising on like what the artist is willing to put in the effort, or how many iterations too. Like they might come back and say like, we need to lock this down within 3 feedback sessions, no more. And you just need to be really clear and understanding of what you want, versus upfronting this, let's say 500 USD. I'm not saying all artists are going to be that. You should only pay that. I'm just saying I've found good artists that are around that range. And sometimes you have to find more up and coming people. Like you're not going to go hire someone who's done 100 Steam capsules and ship games that everyone knows of for 500 USD. That they just have the portfolio and the brand to be able to charge way more. So save up and spend it. I think it's worth it. So
okay. And when you combine that with title, are you also trying to evoke specifically what the game is? I think both Click and Conquer and A Game About a Black Hole are kind of doing that. Do you think for the indie dev, that's the way to go? Or do you see that there might be wiggle room to call it Legends of Wolf Eater 4 or, something more that doesn't really evoke what the game is doing, maybe?
I think if you have a title that's not going to be very blunt, then you need to have a very good, convincing capsule to convey that. And that's when I think it's almost required to pay for the capsule. Like, I don't think there's any like, well, I don't have the money. It's like, then you know what? It's not worth building the game right now. It's worth spending the time and energy and skills probably on your existing job to get the promotion, to have the money then to do this. But if you don't have the direct game like that, then yeah, it's all capsule. You have no choice. Should indies call their game like literally the literal sense? I don't know. I don't have the data. I think it helps. But we'll see because Game About Feeding a Black Hole isn't sold yet. So, and I think Click and Conquer did convey. We were actually worried about Click and Conquer because people thought it was going to be like Command and Conquer, and that it was going to be this like RTS. And we went back and forth with the person who designed the castle many times to try and convey like no grids, man, or minimal grids, and we don't want to highlight the grids like a green grid to indicate any sort of like maybe clicking action, like not clicking, but like grid style RTS, like unit movement. Yeah, just go with go. I don't think the name matters as much as people think.
Hmm.
I think it's like that radar I always talk about is like, if you can find a good name, yeah, it works really well. If you can find a name that explains your game, yeah, it's probably going to help. But like, if you call your game whatever, Legends of Wolf, and you have the other things that round it out, it's not going to die on the title alone. You know, if you pair that with a crappy capsule and no one understands what Legend of the Wolf is or whatever, and they then go to store page and are like, I don't know if this is a fantasy thing. I don't know if I'm playing the wolf. I don't know if it's an RPG. Like, they don't have any matching patterns. Then yeah, you're just, the radar is shrinking in and you have nothing pulling it out. Like, yeah, people are likely to not buy it. Then you throw in high price. It's like, okay, I don't know what the game's about. It's way too expensive. I got other things on the wish list demanding my attention. Nope, leave.
Yeah, and I think
So,
it's even helpful to hear through your thought process there with Click and Conquer's capsule of just how intentional you're being about what that's conveying. I think capsule, I think it could be easy to just throw something up with a title and assume, well, that's good enough. Like it'll get people to my game. But really just thinking through every element on there and what it's conveying to match up with the customers that you want, like you were saying, niching that down. Once you get into the sales page, once someone's clicked, what are the things you're looking at then? Because I've heard you convey the idea that it's most important to convey like exactly what the game is and who it's for, like immediately, right?
yeah. And I don't think that's any sort of like new advice.
Right.
So I don't want to sound like I'm just beating a, horse to the ground or whatever the saying may be. I just don't want to waste the user's time. I want them in and decide to buy it as quickly as possible and to recognize the type of game. Game of a feeding black hole. Some people will recognize it immediately as, oh, it's like keep on mining, but space theme or black hole kind of themed. And that's not a negative thing. That's great. Because if they are the type of player who played that game and they go, I like said game, I would like to play more of said game, buy or wish list. The player who says, I don't like said game, I know I don't. Guess what they do? They don't buy the game, which means they don't leave the negative review, which means they don't refund the game. I don't want any wish-washy where like, I don't know, is this a keep on mining type of game? Let me get it and see. It is. I just wasted 25 minutes, refund. No, no, no. I want them to be very, very clear of the type of game. The trailer for that game is actually just the game itself. Like, you literally just see the progression of destroy asteroid, skill tree, destroy asteroid with more upgrades, skill tree, destroy asteroid. Lots of chaos on screen. Like, it's 21 second trailer. And it conveys very quickly to the user, this is the game loop. If you find that boring and you're like, all I'm doing is destroying things, getting more skills, because there are players like that. I've gotten the feedback for sure. Like, who would ever buy this type of game? I'm like, there's like 20,000 wish lists of wanting the game. There are people who tried to bribe me on Discord to get the release early game version. Some people that works like that.
Wow.
That quick game loop and that like destroy thing, get upgrade. What's the next upgrade? To get more powerful. Go back and forth. That tight loop of iteration. Oh, it's like how do we want to call it? I was gonna say crack, but I don't want to diminish that whole problem with that. It's very addictive to those types of players. It's very like, that's their jam, that's their vibe, that's what they crave, that's what they want. So
yeah, I think it's in the vein of those like oddly satisfying videos kind of thing. You don't have to work your brain, you don't have to understand anything. It's just satisfying. It feels good to some people. Do you think that strategy for trailers works for all games where you just show sort of maybe a early game, mid game, late game progression, or is that easier to adapt with an incremental?
I think it works well. I'm not gonna say it's the only way. I had spent an enormous amount of time with the creator of a game called Mr. Farm Boy, and probably 900 hours with that fellow creator on that game. And that trailer was a different approach. It does show progression, but not in a linear fashion. It actually gives you a midpoint of what you'll look like, and then immediately goes to like the end game chaotic, like this is what the max farm of this game looks like, and you're like, oh my goodness, this looks like chaos. There's so much happening, and like literally the next frame is you're starting off with nothing, hitting a piece of stone. Like, and I think that also works well because it gives the player like this broad sense of here's all the kind of things in the game, here's where you're going to get in the end, and then immediately shows you here's where you start. And then you know, okay, it's a journey, but I want to get to that. I want a giant farm, massive farm, automated shenanigans. I think the biggest thing on the trailers is not so much like this early, mid, end. It's actually not wasting the time of the viewer on the same repeated garbage. It's like, cool, you got a sword. Like, okay, I saw that 5 times already. Yeah, but you didn't see me hit the other unit. It's like, then make one shot with like 7 different units with the sword and 3-second clip. Like the way I do trailers, or the advice I have people who are making trailers is, you know, don't go ask how to make good Steam trailer. Go and Google out how to make good YouTube content, and then apply the same rules. Like I just look at the greatest YouTube subscribers I could find. I'm like, what are they doing? Oh, they're changing the video clip transitions every 3 to 5 seconds. Like, okay, well, that's what I'm doing. Seems to work there. It's probably going to work on that. And we just have such a low attention span, and we want this change. Every trailer I see, it's like any moment there's any pause of any hesitation, I'm like, cut it, trim it. Like just 200 milliseconds off, 200 more milliseconds off. Like I can tell when people recorded it with them playing the game versus they use code to record. Because it's got that moment where you're like, okay, you did something, and then there's a pause of you like moving and clicking. I'm like, no, you got to be quicker in recording. And then even then when you do the cuts over to your next clip, like they have to be very, very aggressive. And I know this sounds nitpicky, but I had one content creator, one indie come, and you know, they had like a 40-second trailer, and it wasn't bad. And I just told them very easily, I was like, go cut half the time, literally half, 50%. And they're like, that's impossible. I'm like, no, go do it. And they came back and they got it down to 17 seconds. And they're like, I couldn't believe how much more dead space there really was. Like just this little delay here, a little delay on this scene, a little delay here, a little like, oh, I could speed this up by 10%. And like the game still felt exactly how it was, but just squeezed everything a little bit quicker to get through the points. Because people are going to opt out. Like every second they're there is a second that they're thinking, am I really wanting to buy this? Am I really should I really be spending my time? Or we're busy. Start watching. Oh, Slack notification. What's that? Oh, my kid. Okay, kid, bye. And then they didn't watch the 40 seconds.
Yeah.
But if it's good enough early on, or in some sort of hook of what it's about, it might be like, yeah, hold on, Timmy. I'll be with you in 2 seconds. What's this? Intention. Anyways.
Yeah, that's great. And for the record, I don't hear any of this advice as nitpicky. I think of it as intentional and helpful. So I think the people that really want to get the most out of the games will receive it that way. Last question on trailers. Do you have any opinion on people putting UI or leaving it out in their trailers? Do you think it really matters?
I do. It's decisive. So the answer I have, I don't want to say some of it because it's going to seem deceptive, but take it with a grain of salt.
Okay.
If you have a bad UI, and what I mean by a bad UI is like, if that doesn't come natural to you, and if you can't look at it and be like, wow, this is stunning, there's a good chance you should maybe not show it. I think I don't have the data on this. I wouldn't be able to anyways. I think a lot of games, indies die on their first or even second game because of bad UI and because it's so easy to tell through the trailer, and it pulls down the quality and the bar of the game because consumers are really good at spotting this unpolishedness.
Yeah.
And then they associate it with a low quality game, even if the mechanics are really fun. It just becomes so much harder. And then you come in and you're like, yeah, give me $9.99 US. You're like, that's like half a Stardew Valley, man. And that's a iconic game that everyone's playing. So it's like, no way. Like that. Look at that bar. Look at that text. That's like tutorial text. And now, if you have a more polished UI, more refined, I think it can definitely help the game because it's easy to identify the type of game and what you're going to be doing then. I think I don't want to say it's be deceptive. I'm just saying if you don't have a very good UI, I think you're actually better off kind of hiding that UI. The downside though is your player, if it's not obvious on everything else what type of game it is and you remove the UI, it might even be harder for them to recognize it. But I don't know, is that better to show the shitty UI and players see the garbage UI and they're like, maybe I don't buy the game, but they recognize the game versus they don't see the UI, but then they have a hard time to recognize the game?
Well, it's a good push and pull to think through at least as people are considering those things. Do you have any advice on how to tell if your UI is crappy, if someone doesn't feel like they have an eye for it? Or is it just like, you'll know if you know, and if you don't, then it's not good?
No, it's one of those things where it's just like once you've kind of seen enough of them and interacted with enough, you can just kind of spot it. I do think the exercise helps. If you go find a game similar to yours and you put yours side by side, and you're like, wow, mine got problems, then that's probably a good indication.
Yeah.
If you're feeling like and I don't go get the AAA game versus yours. No, I'm saying like a game that you think is relatively same quality, buy probably an indie, and you put the two screenshots and you're like, yeah, this one just kind of looks better than mine. That it probably means your UI is not very strong. And now there's plenty to unpack there. It's like, do you have the self-awareness to really do it? Can you really not put your ego aside and actually be able to assess that? If you can't, just go find someone else. You go find someone like me who's going to be super critical and very harsh. And you're like, is this good or bad? Don't go ask your friends because they're usually going to be like very calm and, oh no, it's all right. Don't worry. The other thing I would say on the UI is sometimes you can get away with a not visually looking UI, but because the experience of the UI and how it's set out and how the user interfaces with it, the user experience, is actually very good. And sometimes then it doesn't matter necessarily how much the visuals, it might matter in the trailer and the capsule, but once the player gets in your game, like Vampire Survivor, like I look at that and I'm not like, wow, this is the greatest UI I've ever seen in terms of visuals. But the interface is very simplistic and very straightforward and felt intuitive to me as a player. So I would say from a user experience, nailed it. From a visual, it's not got anything like to call home about or to be like, oh, you should win an award for the visuals on the interface. So
yeah, that's super helpful. You mentioned also wanting people to be able to pretty quickly realize this game is like that game. Can you talk about your how you're thinking about tagging? Because I think it's just a slight different thing than what other people are maybe saying.
Yeah. So yeah, tags are important. You want your game to be tagged accordingly to the other games. And, I think the got you is people come in and they tag what they believe the tag should be. And it's like, you need to play the Steam system. It's like, if my incremental clicker game, if I would say it should have the clicker tag. And if I put the clicker tag and for some reason I put that in a ranking and a game that I'm like, that's not really the game I want players associated with my game, I don't care if it makes sense or not. I don't care if you're literally like, but my game is a clicker game.
Mm-hmm.
And like all of a sudden you got like RimWorld coming up. And you're like, why? I don't know. Steam Algo, maybe they accidentally added it on their
Right.
tag, and because the game's so popular, it artificially comes up now. I engineer so that I put the tags until I get the result of what I'm looking for. And sometimes that means like, I think maybe this tag should be here. I put it in, it's like, nope, those are not games that are close to the audience I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And just moving things around on the ranking. So I think people just go and they put the tags of what they feel their game it represents. And sometimes that's spot on, yes. But like I said, I'm to the extreme of like, I could be building an incremental clicker game, and if I put clicker and all of a sudden something shows up that I disagree with for the player audience, I'm removing the tag.
Yeah. So you're literally just doing a guess and check until you feel that the output matches what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, there are some tools for this that will go, you put in a bunch of games, they pull out all the tags, they pull out the rankings, they try and find you the common ordering of what you should put. Okay, you start with that, and then you're looking and you're like, okay, what's it look like? And the got you for people is in Steamworks you can see the preview, but also sometimes they'll go to the page. I'm like, no, incognito mode, my friends. Don't allow your bias of what your wish list is and everything. You need to go there as a fresh user and see what baseline looks like.
Yeah. And the other just cool note that I think you mentioned about tags is that you're pretty sure that that is also the audience that Steam is going to grab for your initial audience. They're probably not just guessing and throwing it out to everyone. They're making an educated guess, and that's probably from tags and those like-minded games. So that's just another note for people as they're thinking through the importance of it, that a lot of the initial people are going to be based on what you tag it on. Anything you want to touch on either pricing strategies or refunds or just long-term price stuff? I think you've mentioned some pretty interesting ideas there.
Refunds is the easy thing. You need to read them, and you need to continue to read them. I've audited so many games, and one of the first things I do is I go through refund data. I ask the indie, do you do this? Yes. I go through, I'm like, okay, you said you did this. There's 6 refunds that say your game is not translated in X language. And they're like, yeah, but I don't say my game's in X language. I don't know why the user bought the game and then refunded because it's not in said language. We don't care about that. What we care about is you have 6 refunds because the game's not translated. This is a good time to translate said game. And you won't believe how silly this sounds and how many indies tell me that they read the refunds. And I think the answer is I read the refunds the first week and then the game didn't do as well and I stopped reading them.
Right.
And then, a couple of months pass and you're going in. It's like, hey, do you know that like the Steam Deck controller mapping for your game makes no sense? Nope, didn't know that. Well, it's right there in the refunds. And maybe they didn't leave a negative review,
Sure.
but the players who are buying it are just not playing very long.
Yeah.
And that's probably being fed back in that like, hey, when Steam Deck players are playing this game, they're really not enjoying it. So refund, easy. Playtime is something I think people mix up quite a bit. Yes, medium playtime is important. I don't really pay a lot of attention to that particular number. What I am is I'm clicking one step further in and going and looking at minimum playtimes. So generally what I tell people, it's like, if it's a demo, if you can't hit at least 80% on the first 10 minutes. So that means that 80% of players are still playing at 10-minute mark. And Valve gives you this whole table breakdown. Once you click on the medium playtime link, you get this table. It tells you all the drop-offs. Then I'm like, there's a problem. There is a problem either with the page because it's not communicating. You're getting players who don't like the game and are bouncing very quickly. There's a problem in the players who do join the game and like it, and you are communicating correctly but don't know what they're doing. not fun, tutorial hell, wall text, bug, right? I don't look beyond that for the demos because then it becomes very particular for the demo. Like a lot of the games I'm doing for demos are 30-minute demos. So you can't like, oh, you have a 2% at 1 hour mark. It's like, I can't even believe people are playing to 1 hour mark on 30-minute demo. Okay. Like, even though Valve will say this is below the average for the demos.
Right.
Well, yeah, there's this demos that are, I guess the average demo game is way longer than when I'm shipping. Then on the release game, same thing, 80% or above at 1 hour mark. And if you cannot hit that, again, there is a problem. It probably means that the core mechanic of the game or the pacing or the balancement in the game is not good. Especially if you have 80+% in the first 10 minutes, because that means the player understood the game. They have probably introduced with all the core mechanics of your game, or at least have a grasp of what they're going to be doing. And somewhere between 10 and 1 hour, it's all about was it actually fun doing what you told them to do? Are you walling them on progression? Like, are you just saying like, sure, you'll get the next weapon, but it's going to take you 45 minutes. And they're like, that's way too long, bro. Like the next one after that's probably gonna be 3 hours close. Yeah. So those are the key numbers I look before the game's released to know is it going to work or not. And the downside, and this is one thing, Valve, if you're listening, listen, please fix this. The playtime is by lifetime. It was like the only thing in the portal that you can't actually look over time. It's lifetime. So what happens is you do you can technically get around this by having a demo and then a play test, and these are separate product IDs. Let's say you do a demo early on. There's a bunch of bugs. You have very bad playtime, like 40%, 10 minutes, because everyone's like, it crashes. And you have 1,000 players. Well, what happens when you bring in the next 1,000 players? Well, it barely moves, even if it's a doubling, because 1,000 players, another 1,000, 40%, 80%, add this together. Now we're at 60%. You actually might have a good game. Because the next batch actually was at 80%. But because it's lifetime, you're not going to know that. So the only thing I have for those listening around this is it's the one thing I actually suggest people to spend the time and add analytics for. Because the portal doesn't give you any way of seeing this aside from lifetime. And I think it's incredibly important, especially when you're doing iterations and demos and playtesting and you're changing your game. It's really, 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 really important. So
kind of crazy that's
pricing,
not a feature.
Hey, listen, I don't want to say the controversial thing, but I'll say it. We just had the festival, and for 3 days, you couldn't even see the wish list. And this is Gabe, I guess. Gabe, my Lord or Savior. I don't ban me for it, but I mean, we're paying 30%, and
right.
This festival's not even worse. The summer festival, it was down for the entire festival plus 5 days after the festival. And this is another little tangent, I guess, is advice. Do not release your game in the festival, and do not release it after the festival for the first week. Why? Because of this very reason. Now it's almost a reoccurring theme I feel that like every festival comes around, the wish list go blank, and you have no visibility to what's working, what's not working. Are content creators really covering? There's some ways of kind of inferring it. Like it depends on how bad things break. Like this time you could see the follower count still go up. So you're kind of like mapping out follower count to what you standard get your wish list. You're like, I think we'll be around this. So
that's crazy.
Here you're trying to do your entire marketing push, and you see someone cover it, and you have no visibility. The sales have always worked, so technically you'd be able to see the sales, but I just think like the week after the festivals, because of this, the NextFest, I should say, you just don't. Pricing and discount, if you want to talk about that, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I'm pretty much sold on, I don't know if you want to call it a strat. I'm sold on 40% on launch discount, 2 weeks, maximum amount of time. For launch discount, the maximum you can do is 40%. The maximum time you can do is 2 weeks. That's not always the case. Once you get past the launch discount, the custom discounts are up to 90% and still a maximum of 2 weeks, I think. But the minimums change. I think it's minimum 1 day, and on launch it's 1 week or 2 weeks. And I just think that's price psychology. Like, I just go read the retail papers of like how retail stores work, and it's like, yeah, 40% discount sounds good. And people like a good deal. They like the sense of having a good deal. And my whole thing is like, I don't want people to click the wish list. I'll take it versus leaving.
Right.
I want them to do the buy now. Yeah. So even if it means I have to give up money today to secure the sale, I'm willing to do it because I want the signals to the algo, because I am not going to be able to market the game better than the Steam algo will. So I think indies get too caught up, too penny pinching. I've seen in the comments people come for me with the pitchfork and click and conquer. I think the game could have been actually 10%, 20% off, or you could have made an extra 50 cents per game. 35,000 copies sold, $17,000 more. Yeah, it's a lot of money. And it could have also killed the game, and the traffic could have been clawed back. And you know what? I'm happy in the scenario it is. I'm happy with the money it made. I'm sure we all would have liked the extra $17,000 in this scenario. Sure. But you know what? What happens if I did that, and instead of 100,000 or 35,000 copies sold, it ended up being so clawed back on the algo that it actually only did 7,000 or 5,000 copies. I'm not worried. And I just tell people on pricing, go to the price that you think it should be, like the uncomfortable spot where you're like, I don't know, that feels kind of and then drop it 20% more. Because you know what? That's great. It means the consumer is getting a great deal. And I know people I've chatted to, they get worried because they're like, but I'm only going to sell like 500 copies. I'm like, that's the problem of the mentality of thinking. It's like, if you can build a good game and you can market the game well, and you build a good store page, you're not going to sell. I shouldn't say you're not. It's unlikely to sell just 500 copies. Like, I'm pretty sure I can launch a game that's like pretty mediocre at this point and do over 1,000 copies. Like, I'm talking pretty mediocre. Like, we would question if I'm just throwing slop together kind of game.
Interesting.
And the games I have looked at, when they don't do well, it's like only a handful of things. Like, you didn't close your 10 reviews in like ASAP. Your tagging's all over the place. Look at your recommended more like this. It's like game X versus Y game. How do you think those matched? Well, I mean, I'll be naive and ask them, do you think these games are related? No, me neither. So I don't know why you picked those tags. You got cute game, you got killing game. Those player base don't usually come together very often. Pricing, again, kill a game. I have indie, they did a game called The Feather Serpent, and it's a little interesting because me, Sockhouse, this person, and 2 other devs kind of all came up at the same time, all same kind of venture, and it's different to see where we placed and how and the strategies, and that game listed for like 20 USD. And I went and looked back through the game with them, and I said, like, bro, pricing just killed this game. Like, I know you think it's worth that. Like, you put in all this time and effort, and it's worth that to you. And it actually has tons of hours of content, like just enormous amount. But it's a platformer, and the art style's all right if you're into this type of game, but it's nothing like it's going to go viral on TikTok. And the other thing was like zero marketing on their part. So pricing will kill the game.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to some of the early parts of this conversation, a low or an aggressive pricing strategy like that is good for sales velocity, which can continue to spin the cycle and boost things. And so you also have to keep that in mind, that that's also positive. Now, I know you also wanted to chat a little bit about a game about feeding a black hole. I'm just curious, what do you think that game's going to do, and what's it been like working on that?
Okay, so I have recorded myself 5 minutes before NextFest and premiered that video. It's set in stone. But I mostly did it because I didn't want to be in this one-hit wonder, you got lucky, yada yada, all this. And the only way you can truly stop something like that is like, it can't be in hindsight. It's like, no, I need to record in this moment what I think it will do in the future. So in the future, when I'm watching that and people are like, oh, it's easy for you to say that now.
Yeah.
Because look at the dashboard. Like, no.
Right.
Okay, so there's like different things. And for those listening, I'd say listen, because it's a different way of thinking. And I think a lot of indies would benefit on thinking like this. There's the number I would like the game to do based off the data I see that I think it would do. There's the number I say because I don't want to set up false expectations. And there's the number that like I know like there's a chance for the game to do. Like it's a small chance. Like when I'm even talking with Aarimous and I'm presenting like, here's what I think the game will do, here's what the data is saying, you know, I'm going in with like not even repeating, I think the game will do X. Like it's always way lower. It's always way lower. And because I don't even want to be in the mindset of the letdown of like the game floss, because that will kill all the momentum to work on the next game of like, remember how we thought this would be a big hit, blah, blah.
Right.
So I think I can confidently say that the game will do 5,000 to 10,000 copies in the first week. You know, I think there is a greater than 1% chance that the game will do 20 to 30,000. Probably even higher than 10% in the first week. Like, I think that's possible. The data is indicating it. We still have time. The wish lists are like 20,000 at this point, and that's in just like 3 weeks. The game's gonna like whatever, 20 days to go for release. It's like 99% chance we're on popular up and coming. Like the whole calendar would have to shift. Like people would have to change all our days for us to not be on that. Now the insane number, the literally like, okay, it's probably like less than 1% chance, but like it's maybe possible, would be like 20 to 30,000 copies wins the first 72 hours. So
Wow.
And that would only be possible if the game hit the popular recently released. So at that point, the game basically would have to do on the low end 500 concurrent players. On the more average expected that I see is about 1,000.
Okay.
1,000 concurrent players in a game. So I wouldn't say it's zero, because the game is in 3 weeks pulled 20,000 wish list. And for perspective, it's like Click and Conquer did 35,000 copies, more 40,000 now, but that's over a span of July, August, September, almost 4 months. But the difference is that game came in with 3,000 wish list.
Wow.
NextFest was here's perspective for listener, and how it's very mind blowing how crazy this is, and like it wasn't planned for this either. Like we put all the ducks in a row for our best success moving forward, but neither me or Aramos came in saying, okay, we're gonna have a game like this.
Right.
We said, okay, to build a good game, we think it needs to be ABC, and that will net us out. Like I think both of us were going to be thrilled that the game did like 15 to 20,000 lifetime money.
Wow.
Like because of the hours we were putting in, we're like, yep, that's like break even positive. We're all good on that.
Yeah.
Cool. And so perspective, in 1 day of NextFest, the game got more wish lists than Click and Conquer had entirely at launch.
Wow.
So basically 3,000 wish lists in a single day in NextFest. So like, this is why indies, it's like you have to be not pompous and have an ego, but you also have to realize like there are opportunities, and it's not just like log or linear fashion. It can be exponential. So, and you think differently. If you ask yourself like, what does it take to make a game that's going to do 15,000 wish lists or sell 15,000 copies, let's say that, versus if you come in and you say, well, I hope the game's going to sell 500 copies. So then I ask you the reverse. What would have to happen in your game for it to sell 15,000 copies? And you might say, well, I had to spend a lot of time. I said, okay, no. What if you don't spend a lot of time? Like you're capped at 20% more time. I'll give you 20% more time. I have to have really good, mechanic, polish, fun. It has to be like really paced well, balanced. The pricing would have to be great then. I'm like, and that's where you should be focusing. Like, I don't mean you need to knock it out of the park on all that stuff. I'm saying like, find the things that will get you there, because I think a lot of people are just like walking in the dark, and they're just kind of going about this in the sense of like, well, I really like doing X. I really want the sort thing to be like perfect. Like, is that going to sell 15,000 copies though? Like, really?
Right.
Like, can you show me a game that people only bought it because like the sword action was flawless? And if the answer is no, then I tell them, okay, 80% on that is probably good enough, because you have things on your radar that are like 2 or 0%. Like, they're so bad that it's going to kill your game. Like, but yeah.
Well, it's really inspiring to hear of successes of others. And, as someone that's followed Aarimous for a while, it's been inspiring just to see him have such huge successes. And so your part in that has been also really fun to see in this new, kind of different framework of looking at min-maxing for game dev. So I'll end you with this one final question. I made this podcast to mostly just keep myself inspired by talking to cool people and hear what they got going on and what they aspire to. So what would you say is your dream in terms of game dev in this season?
What's this season?
Whatever that means to you. This season of life, that could mean right now, literally thinking about a game about a black hole. That could mean the next couple of years of what you're trying to build. It's really open-ended on purpose for whatever that question sparks for you.
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Yeah, just what's your dream in terms of game dev and what you're working on right now? What do you hope for? What excites you?
Excitement's easy. I just want to build the biggest building by building the biggest building, not by tearing down all the other buildings. So I want to build a success and stand and build a success, and not be like, oh, I built something mediocre and then just be like, oh, your thing's not as good as mine. Haha. No, that's not me. I'm here. I just solely want to build a great thing, and I've always just naturally been inclined on like finding the perspectives that I guess others miss, or just seeing the opportunities. Like, who else is building tools that are scrolling in reverse YouTube for emails? Like, not many, but like that just comes natural to me. And I've had people ask me like, how do you come up with this? And like I'm like, it's like asking someone who can see, like can't see, like explaining to someone who can't see how to see. Like, I don't know. It's just how I'm wired. I've always been this way. Like, opportunity just is easy to spot. But the dream's hard. I think it'd be easy to say like, I don't know, sell $1 million worth of games, but I come from a corporate world, and like that stuff. I've built the 10 million plus $100 million businesses within a business, and I don't think I have a dream. I just think I really enjoy the journey. Like I kind of like coming into game dev and not having any bias or any background in game dev. And just coming in as, I don't want to say like a new person, but coming in someone not traditional and being like, okay, but I have a bunch of different perspectives from different industries and I'm sure those apply over. And I'm sure this is going to be a different problem with different variables. And I'm sure it's going to be a new challenge. But like, I wonder if I can take some of the same playbook and apply it. And like, that's what gets me up. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but dream, like what, like, why am I doing it? It's fun. It's a challenge. It's because everyone else told me it wasn't going to be possible. I still have haters coming with their pitchfork and saying it's one hit wonder Cory and oh, Click and Conquer wasn't even on popular up and coming, and they don't get the whole story. Like the irony
Right.
is like I've been in the game dev space as like a watcher and like of interest for last 2 years, and I don't mean like, oh, I just play games. I mean like I'm living and breathing Excel sheets on this stuff and just trying to figure out like what works, what doesn't work. Like, if there's a content creator who's published something of advice on like making it, I probably watched it. Like once I go down that rabbit hole, I just obsess. And maybe the dream is, I think there's a different model to be done in this space. And I hope that I'm able to do well enough to make that different model happen. And I don't know exactly what it looks like. I think it looks more, I definitely know it's not a collective. I've seen that a lot. I don't think those work. I think those are rarities like sock pop. It takes an incredible amount of discipline and effort to find two people to work well together and be on the same terms and have fair, equal like splits and things like that. But I despise the publisher model. I hate it. I hate it because a lot of the people who come for me for either their advice or audits, like I'm like, I hate that you actually come to me, not because I don't like doing it, but because you're giving all this money away to your publisher, and why are they not doing it?
Yeah.
Like I hate this. And it's not to say like I don't want to make money. It's like, oh, Cory, would you not be making money? Yeah, but I want to build a system where it's like we both benefit from the money being earned, and it's not the current model, which is I'm going to come in only after usually you've already proven out all the risks being gone, and just inject capital and just expect an ROI out of that. And sure, I will do marketing. And I put quotes because a lot of times the marketing there is like, it's just a fucking list that they got, that they've done it long enough and they email it out. And they don't even A/B test their emails. They don't even send the emails in the language for the content, like content creators are emailing it. It's the same blast email across the entire thing. And they'll only put money back in if the numbers are looking good off the conversion. And, I want to run a successful business on that. Yes. But it's like, it just feels very passive for a lot of them.
Yeah.
Like it just feels lazy and like, not gonna say capitalistic, but just like money, just capital money intensive of like, just pour the money in and we just get the ROI and we don't have to do very much for it. And I hate that. Like, that's why I had such a hard time explaining like what I'm doing. Because it's not just, I don't do any capital injection. I've had people ask me of like, if I go down that kind of route, like, would I fund it? I'm like, nope. Money wise, no. I not because I don't want to get money, but it's like, I don't think that's the skill set that most people need. Like, yeah, they need to survive and live. And I'm like, cool, you don't do game dev for 6 months, 8 months, you go save the money. What I want is that you come with enough to survive, and I can increase the chance of that happening. That's what I want. I don't want to say, oh, problem's on you. You de-risk the entire project, and then I will sustain you to finish that once you've de-risked it. No, that's where all the benefit is. And that's where an indie's like, cool, I get X money for surviving, but now I need to give up this huge chunk of the payday. No, this is terrible. No one wins in this.
Yeah.
Like,
well, Cory, I
like
deeply
Aarimous,
appreciate. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, me and Aarimous have a Rev Share agreement. And that agreement, the project was not de-risked at all. They had like 0 wish list. But yet we jump in that early. But publishers aren't doing that. They're waiting for the de-risk. So sorry. That's it.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say that I deeply appreciate your passion looking out for indie developers. I really hope you're able to lead this, kind of trailblazing new way that's better and more sustainable for indie devs. Thanks so much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure to chat with you.
Likewise.
I ended the recording. Thanks again.
That
was fun.
Yeah, no problem. I hope it was fun.